And this is what the email says. For your situational awareness, wanted to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported or that we were aware, including during the period we would expect to charge in a Maxwell case, the email states. In other words, during a period in which crimes were being committed. The email added that Trump had been on at least 8 Epstein flights. On one flight in 1993, he and Epstein are the only 2 listed passengers. On another, the only 3 passengers are Epstein, Trump, and then 20-year-old redacted. That seems like a justified redaction there. Remember what Trump said last year on social media, quote, "I was never on Epstein's plane or at his stupid island"? That appears to be patently false, right? We also learned over the weekend that Epstein had 10 alleged co-conspirators. This is probably the biggest piece of news to come out of these documents today. So in another email, this one from 2019, the day after Jeffrey Epstein was charged with child sex trafficking by the feds, an FBI employee asked a colleague for, quote, an update on the status of the 10 co-conspirators. Now, this email also shows the incompetent or possibly malign nature of DOJ's redaction efforts, or at least as yet unexplained. Some of the co-conspirator names were redacted, and that would appear to be a violation of the law under almost all circumstances. You can't redact someone's name just because they might suffer embarrassment or reputational harm, even though Donald Trump thinks you should. The law explicitly says you can't. But then, in the same document, some names aren't redacted at all. As Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said in a statement today, the Department of Justice needs to shed more light on who was on the list, how they were involved, and why they chose not to prosecute. There's also the case of a heavily redacted court filing quoting an Epstein survivor. That survivor claims that another friend of hers was one of the many girls that had sexual relations with Redacted. She confided in me about her casual friendship with Redacted. Redacted definitely seemed to have a thing for her, and she told me how he kept going on about how he liked her pert nipples. But in another data set released by the DOJ, that same document appears without any edits or redactions at all. And guess what? The unredacted name of the man in question is Donald Trump's. Now, it's not clear why his name was redacted from the other file they released. And remember, an allegation is not evidence of a crime. And in this case, it's not even clear she's making an allegation of a crime. Either way, the redaction, though, appears to plainly violate not just the law, but kind of the whole point of the law, right? That was the whole point of the law. Release the files, all of them, let us see it all, and let people figure it out. So we're learning things as best we can tell when we kind of get into the details. But also at the same time, in many ways, the bigger story is the ham-fisted nature of the cover-up that continues to be happening here, in plain view. Like the photo of Trump in Epstein's desk that got published in the first set of Epstein files last week. Then it was inexplicably taken down over the weekend, only to be, wait for it, reposted yesterday after a massive public backlash against the administration. DOJ says they took it down briefly to make sure its release didn't endanger any victims. Maybe true. Slightly hard to take this Department of Justice and this administration at face value when they make those claims. There are, it appears, a whole host of just incredibly messy attempts at manipulation of the information that Trump's government is required to share with us by law. They are one way sort of hiding a bunch of stuff. They're also flooding the zone with garbage, trying to cover up some stuff and protect some people, specifically one guy, which is, of course, how they treat everything. Why? Who knows? Maybe they really have something incredibly damning to hide. Maybe they have nothing but contempt for the public. Maybe both. Lisa Rubin is a senior legal reporter for MS Now, and she joins me now. Lisa, this has been a heck of a story to try to parse and report out. It is extremely difficult because there's so much. There's a lot of confusion. There's stuff that's been previously reported. So I want to just let's start on a few things that seem concrete and vetted and established. Let's start with that email about the flight records, which does seem to be like a real thing with real evidence and actually new. What can you tell us about that?
So, Chris, I want to be cautious about the flight logs and about the email you were referring to about the alleged co-conspirators. And let me start by saying, probably better than anyone that where it comes to Donald Trump, I have not had hesitation about calling him someone who has committed sexual abuse because I sat through both E. Jean Carroll trials. But where it comes to, for example, the flight logs email, the phrase that starts the email, "for your situational awareness," and the date of the email suggests to me that something here is going on that might be different than someone suggesting Donald Trump has some complicity here. What might be happening here is that Donald Trump is the president in the run-up to the indictment of Jeffrey Epstein. And it may be that the prosecutor who sent this email, and we believe it is a prosecutor, is alerting colleagues, including more senior colleagues in the Department of Justice, hey, I'm letting you know that this evidence is out there, because when we indict Jeffrey Epstein and we expect him to fight with a vigorous defense, as he did years ago in Florida, he will likely find these records and throw them in everyone's faces. And I want to make sure you, SDNY leadership, you, Maine Justice leadership, we can't tell because we don't know exactly who the email is to, but that may be the context in which this email was sent, rather than, hey, look at what Donald Trump did. And I want to urge folks to be cautious about the things we don't know right now.
Okay, so I think that's the plain reading of that email, of the context. Basically, here's a heads up, this might blow up. The guy's the president. But it is also the case that that we didn't know, right? I mean, he's denied being on the plane. This seems to be 8 or 9, I guess 9 instances of him being on the plane at a time that the U.S. government says crimes were being committed, right? That by itself does not mean Donald Trump is guilty of a crime or even one is alleged. Lots of people flew on that plane, quite notoriously, but this is a new piece of information about that, it would appear.
Sure. And I think the most concrete piece of information that's new for us, we've known for some time that Donald Trump has flown on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, right? That is publicly available information. But the context here, that Trump was on the plane at the same time as 2 prospective witnesses in an ongoing criminal case, or what's soon to be a criminal case, is, I think, something we didn't know before, and something that makes us further ask the question, what did Donald Trump know about Jeffrey Epstein, and when did he know it? That doesn't make him criminally responsible, but complicity comes in all sorts of varieties. And Trump has said himself, he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he was poaching staff and being inappropriate with girls who were on his staff. That begs the question, if Trump knew that something awry was going on with Jeffrey Epstein, why didn't he alert authorities, much less the public?
The other big email in this here is about these idea of co-conspirators. And again, this appears to be, I think, as far as we can tell, it's real. It's a real discussion between actual principals who would have a way of knowing. I mean, there's always been at the center of this story, right? A notion, a supposition. Often many of the survivors have said this, right? Sometimes they've said, I can't say who it is. Sometimes they say, I just know, that there were other men that essentially Jeffrey Epstein trafficked the victims to. And they were powerful men, they were wealthy men. The Todd Blanche, the note from DOJ, the big thing they say is there was no list, right? Among many things. Case closed, there was no list. So now we have an email that says, can you tell me about the 10 alleged co-conspirators? What do we know about the context of this document?
I was listening to you talk about the people whose names are redacted and are not. And my recollection, not having the email right in front of me, I can see it on the screen to one side of my face, is that Ghislaine Maxwell's name and the name of Les Wexner, who was one of Jeffrey Epstein's largest clients, if not the largest source of his wealth, are not redacted. And yet you have a number of other names redacted. And I want to suggest to you sort of a third possibility here, because 2 things can be true at once. It may be the case that there are men whose names are redacted in this email, alongside those of women who the Department of Justice understands differently today than they might have at the time that this email was written. And specifically, the Department of Justice has a policy that where sex trafficking is concerned, if a person is both a victim of one person and also an alleged perpetrator with respect to other victims, the policy of the department is to treat that person as a victim. And I want to name one person in particular about whom we learned more today from some of the other emails. There is a woman who was named in Jeffrey Epstein's 2007 non-prosecution agreement as one of his co-conspirators. That insulated her from prosecution by the Southern District of Florida at that time. We've learned today that that woman is now represented by Brad Edwards, who is perhaps the best known of all of the survivors' lawyers. I can tell you for sure she was not represented by Brad Edwards at the time that things went down in the Southern District of Florida. And that suggests to me that this woman, again, named by Epstein as a co-conspirator, and that sweetheart deal, the non-prosecution agreement, is seen very differently today by the Department of Justice than she might have been in 2007 and 2008.
Right. So, I mean, so that's an example of a possible justifiable redaction.
And there may be others, right?
Right. But here's the thing about all these redactions, right? Am I crazy that they're supposed to give like written justification for them all?
No, you are not.
And also all of it seems incredibly haphazard and willy-nilly. And like, for instance,
Totally.
Trump being redacted in one set of documents and not in another. Like, wherever he was redacted in that set of documents, that's in violation of the law, like, pretty plainly.
Yes. And this is why I say two things can be true at the same time, right? The production of these documents has been inexplicably messy, and yet there could be two things going on in this document. It could be an effort to conceal the identities of sort of the lawyers and bankers and the similar cadre of people who might be accused of perpetrating abuse. And there also may be women in that email whose identities have been redacted because the department sees them differently today than they did many years ago. And both of those things could be going on in that document, and we just don't know. And the fact that we don't know and don't trust this Department of Justice to do the right thing where it comes to the Epstein files leads people to the sort of conspiratorial theories that led to the sort of rabid calling for the production of these files in the first instance, right? It's becoming a vicious cycle. People didn't trust that Jeffrey Epstein acted alone. It fed vicious conspiracy theories before Donald Trump returned to office. Trump and his allies pledged that they would produce these things. And then when they did a 180 on that, then we got the Epstein Files Transparency Act as a result of sort of the bipartisan fervor around this. And I don't think DOJ's behavior is likely to quell that anytime soon, Chris.
No, not at all. Lisa Rubin, thank you so much for helping us walk through that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Coming up, as Trump's DOJ flouts its legal requirements, what can Congress do to hold them accountable? That's ahead.
So what are you thinking?
I'm thinking about our honeymoon.
What about Africa? Safari. Swim with elephants.
Hot air balloon rides.
Lions growling in the
Giraffes that come in through your window.
Wait.
Can we afford a safari?
Great question. Like everything, takes a little planning.
Or put the money towards a down payment?
With enough room for a baby?
Babies.
Baby.
Let's take a look at those scenarios.
JP Morgan Wealth Management has advisors in Chase branches and tools like Wealth Plan to help keep you on track. When you're planning for it all, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
Right now, across the U.S., people are trying to ban books from public schools and
I saw dramatically clearer skin, and many people were 100% plaque.
Yes to freedom of speech and expression.
if you do too, please join us in supporting the American Civil Liberties Union today.
For over 100 years, the ACLU has fought for your rights and mine, including the right to read all manner of books. So please, call or go online to myaclu.org. For just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you can become a guardian of liberty and help protect all the rights promised to us by the U.S. Constitution. Make no mistake, this move to ban books is a coordinated attack on students' right to learn. This is a clear violation of free speech.
That's why the ACLU is working to fight against censorship in all its forms. It is so important, now more than ever.
So please call or go to myaclu.org and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty for just $19 a month. Use your credit card and you'll get this special We the People t-shirt and more to show you're helping to protect the rights of all people.
The ACLU is in all 50 states, D.C. and Puerto Rico, defending our First Amendment right of free speech and all of your constitutional rights.
Because we the people means all of us. So please, Call or go online to myaclu.org today.
I have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, but thanks to Skyrizi, I'm showing off my clearer skin. With Skyrizi, I saw dramatically clearer skin. And most people were clearer even at 5 years.
Don't use if allergic. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
With Skyrizi, nothing on my skin means everything. Ask your dermatologist about Skyrizi today. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Oh no! Our water line broke. It could cost a fortune to get a contractor to come fix it, and it's not covered by homeowners insurance.
That's why you should have HomeServe.
It's Tom Merson, CEO of HomeServe.
When your water line breaks, HomeServe sends a qualified contractor to fix it and pays for the covered repairs.
With HomeServe, the American dream of owning a home doesn't need to be a nightmare.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-888-246-2612 or visit homeserve.com.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks. Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue.
Rose Sparks.
Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
What do you think moves Trump in this regard? Is it the politics? Is it something else?
Why did you decide to run for a third term?
That is what media does. They hold power to account.
I believe in the United States of America. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to respect its flag, to support its Constitution.
The overnight production of tens of thousands of more Epstein files came after serious foot-dragging by the Donald Trump Department of Justice. The heavy redactions of much of the material from both Friday and today has gotten serious blowback from the bipartisan authors of the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
Would you acknowledge that they are complying with the spirit, if not the intent of your law?
No, they're flouting the spirit and the letter of the law. It's very troubling, the posture that they've taken. And I won't be satisfied until the survivors are satisfied. The quickest way, and I think most expeditious way to get justice for these victims is to bring inherent contempt against Pam Bondi. And that doesn't require going through the courts. And give her, and basically Ro Khanna and I are talking about and drafting that right now.
Congresswoman Emily Randall of Washington is one of the Democrats who's been pushing for the release of Epstein files in her capacity as a member of the Oversight Committee. Congresswoman, welcome. It's great to have you in the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
I guess first, if you had to give a grade to the Trump administration, the Department of Justice, in their compliance with this overwhelming bipartisan law so far, what would you give them?
I mean, I think it's an F because you either are compliant or you're not. And what we have seen is this administration slow walk the release of files, not completely release files by the deadline, and illegally redact the information that they have shared.
I want to play for you something that Julie Brown, of course, the biographer of Jeffrey Epstein, the reporter who did some of the most important investigative work on this at the Miami Herald, particularly around the survivors and victims, what she had to say about how many of them are reacting to the release of the files and the redactions in particular. Take a listen.
A lot of these victims have found their own names that have been not redacted in some of this material that has come out. And they're quite frustrated because they see so many other redactions that are saying it almost appears as though the government made sure that they redacted the information that perhaps were clues or provided information about what happened in these cases or who was involved, but they didn't pay enough attention to making sure that they would protect the victims' identities.
What do you think of that?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. We have spent a lot of time in conversation with survivors as the Oversight Committee and also as a member of the Democratic Women's Caucus. And time and again, we have made commitments to the survivors to be respectful of them, their identities, and their information. And what we have seen from this Department of Justice and the Trump administration is a complete disregard for the privacy of these women who have already experienced such grave assaults on themselves. Our job is to treat them with respect and deliver them the justice that they deserve. And redacting the names of perpetrators or likely perpetrators and not redacting the names of the victims is appalling and illegal.
Just to be clear, I mean, we don't, I'm doing this only because I want to be as cautious and precise as possible. We don't know if any of these people are perpetrators, right?
Sure.
And to the point,
people
to
who
that
are
point about
otherwise involved.
Exactly. And to that point about reputational harm, like, I'd like you to hear your thoughts on that, right? You know, there was a picture in I think the first dump of documents of like Mick Jagger with Jeffrey Epstein, and there's just like zero context. Does Mick Jagger have any idea what Jeffrey Epstein is up to? We have no idea. He could have been sitting at a table. And yet there's other redactions that seem to be hiding people. Like, how are you, even as a member of Congress, like parsing all this information that we as a news organization are working so hard to try to make sense of?
Absolutely. Excuse me. I'm very grateful to the Oversight Committee staff who have been working tirelessly to dig through, verify, and double check the information that we've received, as well as to identify what information is missing as far as we are aware. And I want to point out that as the minority party, we have half of the staff for the Oversight Committee that the majority party does, but it's our staff that is doing the hardest of the work to comb through these files, to travel to the Epstein estate, to ensure that the information that we are sharing is as accurate as possible. And, speaking to strange redactions, we did see the photo of, Michael Jackson and and now I'm going to blank on the
Diana
other
Ross and
musician.
Bill Clinton, Michael
Diana
Jackson,
Ross,
Diana
with
Ross.
Yes, but with their children's faces redacted, as if to imply that they were victims or survivors of the Epstein ring, but it was just at a charity event. The Department of Justice is doing their best to muddy the waters, to make it confusing for people to be able to parse through who is involved and who isn't. And not only are they not releasing everything that they should be, but they're doing it, releasing what they are in a way that is just, blatant misdirection, as if they are acting as the president's attorney, not as the attorneys for the United States of America.
Here's what you said. You're the minority. Obviously, all Democrats are minorities in all House committees. The ranking member of that committee is Robert Garcia. He says the new documents Congress has forced the Department of Justice to release make one thing clear. We are witnessing a criminal White House cover-up. We need answers from the president about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and why his DOJ continues to defy the law and hide documents. The president may want to end our investigation and call it a hoax, but our message to him is simple. We are just getting started. Does the Oversight Committee, independent of this, have a program here to try to essentially force compliance of the law?
Well, I think it's important to note that we have two subpoenas. One, the subpoena that was issued by the Oversight Committee, voted on bipartisanly, just barely, before the government shut down. And then the Transparency Act brought by Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie that passed after the discharge petition with 218 members forced it to a floor vote. Now, there's a difference in these subpoenas and, compulsions of records. The Oversight Committee's subpoena does not have a loophole for an ongoing investigation. So the Justice Department is required to comply with that subpoena even if they begin further investigation, and they have not been compliant. Now, the Massie-Khanna bill provides some space for the justice to withhold documents if they have entered into an active investigation. Now, they're not, to our knowledge, and they are still not complying. In both of those cases, we can and we will pursue contempt charges against the Justice Department. You shared Thomas Massie's comments. I spoke with Ro Khanna earlier today about the next steps and, how they are working to ensure that Pam Bondi's feet are held to the fire on this. The American people deserve it. The survivors deserve it. Congress is owed it because of our oversight authority and the subpoenas that we have extended to justice.
Congresswoman Emily Randall, who sits on that oversight committee, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thanks, Chris.
Still ahead, the redaction games Trump's DOJ are playing, including more on that photo that the Congresswoman just mentioned. This story is truly wild. That's next.
The finest luxury fragrances are now exclusively available on everything you wash. The Unstoppables Unlimited collection. Add it to your wash and
everything will smell divine.
luxury laundry scent feed so you can smell unstoppable.
If you know this feeling, you should know the facts. The eczema medication you're taking may not be right for you. Visit myrawtruth.com and talk to your dermatologist about your symptoms and treatment options.
I checked Allstate first, saved hundreds on my car insurance. Unfortunately, I didn't check to see if anyone was watching before I stole cotton candy from a child. Checking Allstate first was really smart. Not checking the Jumbotron, not smart. Well, at least I checked Allstate first and saved hundreds. Was it worth it? Yeah.
You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. I hear your SOS, your SOS. I will send out an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true, I will rescue you.
On streets across America, homeless young people are cold, abused, in danger. Covenant House is helping young people with nowhere else to turn, but the need is overwhelming this holiday season. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month. You'll help provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. Homeless young people are afraid and alone. Your monthly donation right now will show them they are loved and safe.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Call or go online now and give just $19 a month. We'll send you this comforting blanket as a reminder of the love you're showing a young person this holiday season. Call or go online now to safeplacetosleep.org, and your first month's gift will be matched.
Are you one of the millions of Americans who suffer from an upset stomach after a big meal? Try Pepto-Bismol. Unlike some products, Pepto coats and soothes your digestive system to provide fast 5-symptom relief. Stock up on Pepto today.
If it hurts you to watch this, you'll want to hear this. The eczema medication you're taking may not be right for you. Visit myrawtruth.com and talk to your dermatologist about your symptoms and treatment options.
Is your bath or shower old and outdated?
The tiles were falling off the wall.
Maybe it's difficult to step over and feels unsafe.
I could not lift my legs over the tub without tripping.
Your reasons for needing a bath remodel are personal, and so is your remodel experience from the very first call with Jacuzzi.
It was a wonderful experience. I got to choose my different fixtures and shower heads. Everything was customized the way I wanted it.
Jacuzzi bath remodel exceeded our expectations well beyond what we expected.
It's time to personalize your bath remodel with Jacuzzi.
Call or go online right now to schedule your free at-home design consultation for a new Jacuzzi bath remodel.
I am completely mind blown how affordable my Jacuzzi bath remodel was.
Jacuzzi Bath Remodel is now offering 0 down, 0 payments with no interest for up to a year. Plus, we are waiving all installation costs.
Call 800-378-9544. Call now.
The way Donald Trump's Department of Justice has handled the release of more Jeffrey Epstein files has been to try to weaponize and manipulate the information. For example, Friday, just after files started coming out, the White House deputy spokesperson Abigail Jackson posted on social media, quote, "Per the Epstein Files Transparency Act, DOJ was specifically instructed only to redact the faces of victims and/or minors. Here is a picture of Bill Clinton with his arm around Michael Jackson and redacted individuals." What the Trump White House flag didn't tell you is that the redacted faces are Diana Ross's son and Michael Jackson's children. This is not on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, nor is it a private event at his home. So what possible reason could the White House have to post this picture as an example of redacting the faces of victims and/or minors? This is the worst of what you might think the Trump administration would try to do with this release, and we have been watching it play out in real time. Nikki McCann Ramirez is a politics reporter for Rolling Stone. Andrew Weissman worked as a federal prosecutor for years, including as general counsel for the FBI, and they join me now. Nikki, I wanted to start on this because this is such a sort of perfect example of the manipulation here. This was apparently a public event in Washington, D.C. There's actually even a Getty image from a slightly different angle of this. It's just a public image a crazy thing that happened during, in the 1990s. And it's so nefarious and egregious to try to do this, but this was the plan out the gate, it seems, from the White House. What's your read on their approach?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Diana Ross's son actually came out and said, I was just a kid at a party. This has nothing to do with any crime committed against me. But I've been thinking a lot about survivor Haley Robinson, who about a month ago, on the day when the Epstein Transparency Act went to a vote, spoke in front of the Capitol and said, you know what, I'm really grateful that President Trump has agreed to sign this, but I'm very skeptical of the motives, and I'm very worried about how this is going to go down. And she was actually on Arrival Network this morning talking about how this has been another gut punch, that once again, survivors like herself, and Haley Robinson has been a longtime Trump supporter. She actually disavowed him this morning and said she couldn't stand by this administration anymore. But every time the Trump administration is presented with an opportunity where they can show survivors we're taking this seriously, we have to remember that a lot of these women who were girls at the time but are now women, some of them over the course of decades have not yet. Yes, I am.
Sorry, I think we might have. You keep going.
Okay. So where was I? That some of these women who were children and now over the course of decades do not have access, have never been able to see the full extent of evidence related to their cases. And the Trump administration has repeatedly let them down. And I think what we're seeing with the way these redactions have been handled is what the Trump administration is choosing to explain and choosing not to explain is a lot more informative than these redactions are themselves. Some of these choice blanking out of faces, as you were discussing in an earlier segment, the decision to black out the names of some co-conspirators in some files, but not in others. And as your two previous guests mentioned, the administration is not only delinquent in not releasing the entirety of these files, but not providing explanations for those redactions as they are legally mandated to do to Congress. So I think the next step is going to be what Democrats and Republicans on the Hill have been talking about, which is going to be dragging people from the DOJ in front of committees and getting answers as to why was this handled in this fashion.
Andrew, one of the parts of the release today, and again, I think you got to think of all this in sort of, these are tactical choices, right? They didn't give all the files at the same time. So there's affirmative choices being made about what they're releasing, when, and how. And, one of them today was a tip line, right? So anyone from anywhere could call in or write in and say whatever they wanted to about a tip, right? And, that's just totally unvetted information. And it felt to me like there was a little bit of this kind of, again, nefarious use of that by the Department of Justice to kind of, and they even tweeted about it, look, there's all sorts of just scurrilous nonsense here, as a kind of mechanism of sort of putting a drop of ink in the water, right? So that everything becomes muddy and it becomes very difficult to tell, what's real and what's not.
Well, I think it's a very good thing to focus on, which is the selective release. Because if you are Donald Trump and if you have done nothing wrong, you would think, and you have nothing to hide, and you would think not only would this have been disclosed a long time ago, but let's say your hand is forced by Congress. You would think that in your very first tranche, you would say, I want every single document and every single image involving me to be turned over. Let's get that out there. That would be sort of the normal reaction if you had nothing to hide. Yeah. Instead, you have sort of, to me, in many ways, death by 1,000 cuts, because the story is going to continue. And so just politically, it seems like such a bad strategy that it really does increase the concern that they are protecting somebody. That could be Donald Trump. It could be more than Donald Trump. It could not include Donald Trump, but they clearly are doing something that doesn't make any sense in terms of, other than if you're trying to protect somebody, because you would just think there would be a much more transparent way of disclosing everything about both the president, and there would be a press conference where the Department of Justice would set out exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it, including, as noted, why they're making certain redactions. And none of that is happening. And that, to me, is just going to mean that the story correctly is going to continue to be focused on.
Yeah, that sense of sort of, protecting people or reputational harm, whoever it is. I mean, this is where there's just this direct contradiction between Donald Trump's own stated agenda, in which he has said, he's been explicit about it. I want to protect people like bankers and lawyers who are highly respected individuals. Like, he keeps saying this, right? And the actual letter of the law, which is explicitly written to not allow that. No record shall be withheld, delayed, or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. And this is, Nikki, it seems to me, where the rubber hits the road on this strange situation in which the president has signed a law he hates and does not want to comply with.
Oh, absolutely. And part of the problem here is I think the Trump administration continues to think it can get away with treating its voters, the American people in general, as if they're dumb and as if they don't see right through this. The comparison I've been thinking a lot about lately is the national media, the American public, watch Sean Combs, another convicted sex offender, go to trial and watch that case play out over the last several years. Sean Combs was a celebrity, very involved with all kinds of famous people through parties that involved the attendance of every sort of prominent figure. And the American public understood that just because someone went to Diddy's white party or another event hosted by Sean Combs did not indicate that they were inherently implied in his criminal schemes. And I think this is very applicable here. The administration is just dumping files and files and files featuring celebrities like Michael Jackson, who has his own issues, Diana Ross, and saying, oh, well, we can't be fully transparent. We can't provide you all this information. We can't get rid of all these redactions because we might put people at risk, their reputations at risk. And I think what we need to remember here is that when someone comes into contact with a criminal the likes of Epstein, no matter how innocent they are, it is not a bad thing. It is not an undue burden to explain, okay, I went to a party that one time and that's how we knew each other. And people are capable of answering for themselves.
Yes, that's a great point. And Andrew, the big thing that I continue to look for in all of this are Department of Justice files, particularly around that deal that Alex Acosta cut. And I think we still don't have any. I wonder if they're going to try to come up with a reason not to release them.
I don't know the answer to that. They obviously have made a decision about when, if they're going to do it, when they're going to do it. What I'm going to be looking for, and I think we've gotten some clues so far, is the nature of the investigation that was done and how thorough it was. Let's remember the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, has said already that when he interviewed Ghislaine Maxwell, the reason he didn't ask her about certain documents is because the government did not have them. It did not have documents from the estate, such as the document where Epstein says to Ghislaine Maxwell, the dog that didn't bark essentially is Donald Trump. And her response is not, what are you talking about? Her response is, I've been thinking the same thing. But again, we are seeing in the most recent dump, the Department of Justice is saying, look, there are lots of co-conspirators that we need to talk to, and putting together lists. And the real question I have, and could be applicable to more than just the Trump administration, is was the investigation really, they interview everyone? Did they interview Donald Trump, for instance? And I just think if you're a victim here, that is so important to know. Was everything really done here to hold everybody who could be held responsible to account?
Nikki McCann-Ramirez, Andrew Weissman, thank you both. Still to come, turmoil at CBS News, why the new boss apparently spiked a story exposing Trump administration atrocities. That's next.
Whenever heartburn strikes, get fast relief with Tums, so you can enjoy the food you love.
If it hurts you to watch this, you'll want to hear this. The eczema medication you're taking may not be right for you. Visit myrawtruth.com and talk to your dermatologist about your symptoms and treatment options.
Christmas night on Prime has a massive AFC West showdown. St. Nick's and the Broncos meet Travis Kelce and the Chiefs under the holiday lights at Arrowhead.
And into the end zone he goes. Touchdown. Made it look easy.
Broncos, Chiefs.
Pass caught. Touchdown.
Christmas night. 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Only on Prime.
Our sisters are running early.
Early? This headache.
We've got an hour. Try Painquil.
The max strength liquid pain reliever that starts working fast. Painquil, the aches, pain, strains, head pounding, back aching, fights pain fast medicine.
I wish I could just watch live sports at home.
Oh, Sling lets you do that.
I wish I could watch live sports at home at a low price.
Sling lets you do that. Sling lets you do that. Sling lets you do that.
Yeah, well, I wish I could watch live sports and pause my subscription when my team sucks and still get hundreds of channels for free.
Sling lets you do that.
Choose and customize your channel lineup or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
Set sail toward fast asthma relief with Brethora.
$300 for a refill?
Don't pay that. Use Single Care. Look up your prescription, show the coupon to the pharmacist, and save.
See why more people are saving with Single Care.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week. Still couldn't pay the bills. Skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
If you know this feeling, you should know the facts. The eczema medication you're taking may not be right for you. Visit myrawtruth.com and talk to your dermatologist about your symptoms and treatment options.
Downey showed this NFL mom a clip about her son.
This smell like hot dog water, boy. We need to do something about that. Cameron Tyler, I'm gonna show you how to rinse that odor out.
That smells a lot better. Rinse impossible odors out in one wash.
If you were online or watching football over the weekend, and Bears fans sure were, you might have seen CBS promoting a story set to air on 60 Minutes on Sunday about the Trump administration sending hundreds of Venezuelan migrants to a notorious gulag in El Salvador called CICA.
Where they told 60 Minutes they endured 4 months of hell.
Did you think you were going to die there?
We thought we were already the living dead, honestly.
Now, if you saw that teaser, you may have thought, wow, the new head of CBS News, installed by Trump's billionaire crony, is running a story about Trump sending people to a prison where they report being tortured. Of course, the story was pulled at the last minute. The head of CBS News gave the excuse that she wanted the White House to give their reasons for shipping people to CICA. Now, all this came days after Donald Trump raged at 60 Minutes for letting Marjorie Taylor Greene criticize him. John Gans has been writing about the 60 Minutes episode on his excellent Substack, Unpopular Front, and Osman Subsang has been reporting on this story for Sateo, where he's a senior political correspondent, and they joined me now. Swin, let me start with you just in terms of the context here. All of this is happening in a world in which Larry Elder, a Trump billionaire backer's son, has acquired the Paramount in a deal sanctioned and blessed by the FCC, explicitly with discussions about changing the political orientation of the news. 60 Minutes is something Trump watches, and it drives him crazy when they're critical of him. And Barry Weiss has been brought in by this new ownership, pursuant to whatever demands were made by the White House to change CBS. How do you see all this?
Well, look, I'm not a wizard. I can't see what is in Barry Weiss's heart or mind to see how pro-Trump or neutrally she made the decision she made. What I do know is, in effect, it gave veto power to the Trump White House about whether or not this story was going to air. Her decision as a supposed journalist in this was to say, oh, okay, like if Stephen Miller or Tom Homan are not going to comment, we're going to hold it, perhaps indefinitely. That is a remarkable thing to say when you're talking about the administration's human rights abuses at home or abroad. And she is doing this for a gang of people who, I don't know if she knows this or not, do not have any respect for her whatsoever. If you talk to senior Trump administration officials or people who are very close to Donald Trump and help him get elected and reelected, they will tell you that they believe Barry Weiss is a useful idiot. Yes, they like it when she sows discord in the mainstream media from time to time, but they don't trust her. They don't like her. They don't think she's a Trump loyalist. They think she's a Barry Weiss loyalist. So for whoever this is doing it for, the audience is only in the White House to the extent that they can cynically exploit what she is selling.
John, we were able to actually watch the piece because it was uploaded to this international app called Global App and then belatedly taken down. It was by accident because it was going to air in Canada. And after this weird timeline in which she basically spikes the story at the last minute, like comes in very late, like real like eve of this airing, there's then a memo she writes about all the ostensible journalistic reasons that she did it. And you just, I thought, did a very good job of watching the piece, reading the memo, and seeing if the memo held up. What'd you think?
Just about every single point in the memo is either substantially false or shows a complete lack of knowledge of the business that she's doing. First of all, the whole premise that she should get comment from these people, it sounds like someone who has only experience in print journalism and doesn't have any experience in TV. It's a big deal to try to get an interview with somebody together, and they would have time to put together a response or just to stonewall, as was said. Second of all, some of the things she says are just not true. She says that they don't explain the rationale, the legal rationale. The first sentence of the piece is to explain what the administration said its legal rationale was. They said that they didn't say that how many people had been charged. That's not true. They said immediately 70 people had pending criminal cases. That has been how many people have been charged. And I think the most egregious part, however, was the legal section, where Weiss says that the administration was not arguing that they could just remove people without judicial review and without notice. That is precisely what they argued in court. That is precisely what they argued in court. That's precisely what Pam Bondi's DOJ memo said. We don't have to give these people review, and we don't have to give them notice. And they lost in court over and over and over again, up to the Supreme Court. So I just want to make very clear what this story is about, because this meta commentary about the media is interesting. But here's the story. The United States government unlawfully removed more than 200 people to a torture prison. And this is the story. And none of Weiss's facially reasonable sounding concerns make any sense when you watch it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And one thing I do think is interesting, Swin, quickly here, is just that it does seem to me, if there's some small silver lining, is that we feel a long way from Kristi Noem posing in front of this human rights abomination with a Rolex watch or a fancy watch, and like everyone kind of being so proud of what they're doing. Like, it doesn't seem like they're there right now anymore.
No, but in a way they sort of are, because Tomar Abrego Garcia, who was one of the individuals who was sent to this foreign concentration camp and are currently fighting to send somewhere else, not in this country, he is someone who the administration is still fighting tooth and nail to get their way in the courts, even after court after court after court are telling them they cannot do that. And if you talk to senior Trump administration officials, they will say that a lot hinges on this one man, because if they feel that the domino falls of this guy and they can't get away with it, they can't get away with a lot of other policy. So this looms large in the American political landscape.
All right, John Gans and Aswin Subseng, thank you both. We'll be right back.
I don't usually dress like this, but any chance to sing, you know?
They shared a dream. I just want to entertain people, and nothing would stand in their way.
You're my August night, my September morn, you're my Cracklin' Rosie.
Song Blue, rated PG-13, only in theaters this Christmas.
If it hurts you to watch this, you'll want to hear this. The eczema medication you're taking may not be right for you. Visit myrawtruth.com and talk to your dermatologist about your symptoms and treatment options.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, so I only pay for what I need. What a great day. What an okay day. What a messed up...
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Hate and extremism in the United States are on the rise. In fact, there are more than 1,000 hate groups in our country today. Groups that vilify others for their race, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity. And extremist groups that spread dangerous conspiracies and encourage violent acts. This is a dark chapter in our history, but it can be rewritten. Since 1971, the Southern Poverty Law Center has been fighting hate and defending justice and equality in the U.S. But we can't do it without support from people like you. Please call now or go online to helpfighthate.org to become a friend of the center. For just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, you can support the fight for justice. In recent years, hate crimes against Black, Jewish, and LGBTQ Americans have increased across the U.S. This violence has no place in a just society.
Hate and extremism are dividing us like never before. But together we can protect our communities and continue providing no-cost legal help to those impacted by hate violence.
So please call or go to helpfighthate.org and give just $19 a month. When you use your credit card, you'll receive this special Fight Hate t-shirt to show you're standing up for civil rights. The fate of our country is in our hands. We can and will build a more just future, but it won't be easy. That's why we need your support today.
The Southern Poverty Law Center staff are in the courts defending freedom and in the halls of power advocating for change and working hard to prevent recruitment into extremist groups throughout the U.S. Together we can push back against this wave of hate and extremism and turn the tide.
Become a friend of the center today. Call or go online to helpfighthate.org right now.
If you know this feeling, you should know the facts. The eczema medication you're taking may not be right for you. Visit myrawtruth.com and talk to your dermatologist about your symptoms and treatment options.
AI can turn your lights on.
Lights on.
And drive your car. And even write your kid's essay. But AI ain't gonna fix your broken water line or pay for the big repair bill. Having a plan from HomeServe offers real solutions. And when a covered system breaks, we'll send a qualified contractor and pay for the repair. There's nothing artificial about the peace of mind you get with a plan from HomeServe. Getting one is quite intelligent.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $4.99 a month.
Call 1-833-812-1903 or visit homeserve.com.
Until I tried Ninja Transfers, the idea of making a custom t-shirt sounded crazy. But now I've made tees, hoodies, totes, even spandex leggings. I just use my iron and I DIY like a pro. Place it, press it, peel it. That's it. Ninja Transfers makes it so easy. Visit ninjatransfers.com today. Use code TV20 to save 20% right now.
Today, in a surprise decision, the Supreme Court actually ruled against Donald Trump, saying at this point Trump is not allowed to immediately deploy the National Guard in Chicago. It's the latest in a series of legal blows for the administration, but even more notable coming from this conservative Supreme Court. And the ruling is another reminder that for as big and powerful and as inevitable as this administration wants you to think that it is, they have suffered defeat after defeat in the courtroom, in the media, at the ballot box, because the people of this country are standing up and pushing back in historic numbers. Tomorrow, we're going to take all of that for a special edition of All In we like to call the Year in No. It's going to be a lot of fun, so be sure to tune in. That is All In on this Tuesday night. The briefing with Jen Psaki starts right now. Good evening, Jen.
I want to know what the Year in No. Are we going to learn all about things we should know for next year, or what just happened? Is it both?
Oh, it's a retrospective of people saying no this year, which there were many of.
I took the no in a different way, but I love to hear that. That is probably the story of this year that you've been covering and I've been trying to cover and Rachel's been covering, which is people standing up against an authoritarian dictator who's trying to change and destroy our country. So maybe we can all reflect on that this Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I think it's the source of a lot of hope for me personally.
Me too. We'll have a very happy holiday, Chris, and I will see you soon.
Too.
All right.
All right, see you soon.
Okay, nothing like a Christmas Eve news dump. Today we got yet another document dump in the ongoing release of the Epstein files, and a few things remain true. And we've gone through, our amazing team here at MS Now has gone through a lot of this as much as they can. I mean, one, despite a legal requirement based on a law that was passed, again, remember this, with near unanimous support to release all the relevant documents by last Friday, only a fraction of that material is available as of yet, even after the news dump today. Two, the Justice Department continues to redact vast swaths of information, and in many cases, those redactions don't seem to have logical explanations, really at all, and we'll talk about that. But despite all of that, this batch probably, of the batches, had the most new information about Jeffrey Epstein, his criminal enterprise, and the many attempts to hold him accountable. Now, perhaps the biggest bombshell in today's dump of files is this July 2019 email exchange between DOJ officials, suggesting that investigators were looking at 10 potential Epstein co-conspirators at the time. That's obviously huge news, since to this day, only one Epstein co-conspirator has ever been charged in the case, and that's, of course, Ghislaine Maxwell. But in this email exchange, the names of most of those suspected co-conspirators are redacted. And it's really not clear why, especially because the law mandating the release of these files does not allow redactions on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. I mean, the whole reason so many people have demanded the release of these files was to expose the people who participated in Epstein's crimes without consequence. And there may be even more information on potential co-conspirators that the Justice Department is still holding on to. I mean, another email that appears to be from a federal prosecutor in New York reveals the existence of a 7-page memo on, quote, co-conspirators we could potentially charge. The email also mentions an apparently updated 86-page co-conspirator memo that appears to have been drafted later in 2019, as well as a corporate prosecution memo. That is 13 pages. And to be clear, we don't know why that email was drafted. But so far, it does not appear that any of these memos have been released by the Justice Department. And again, exposing potential co-conspirators is a big reason that Epstein survivors have been fighting to release these files. This is not just a story about what Donald Trump did or didn't know. I mean, of course, that's important. He's the president of the United States right now. But it is about a much larger cover-up of rich, well-connected men who preyed on young women trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. So when I learned about some of what was in these files and some of the big questions it still leaves out there, I was immediately reminded of what Charlene Richard told me earlier this year concerning what survivors know but still cannot say about who participated in Epstein's crimes.
Are these people, when the list is released, that people would know? Are they people who are famous in some capacity?
Yes.
And are there names out there that have not been out there yet?
Yes.
That you were trafficked to?
There's names of people that are out there that are not on the list.
All of that is a reminder that there's still a lot we don't know about the people who enabled, abetted, or participated in Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. I mean, today, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer responded to DOJ's decision to redact the names of those Epstein co-conspirators, saying the Department of Justice needs to shed more light on who was on the list, how they were involved, and why they chose not to prosecute. Protecting possible co-conspirators is not the transparency the American people and Congress are demanding. No question about that. I mean, today's file dump also shed light on other aspects of the Epstein investigation with even more bizarre and difficult to explain redactions. I mean, for instance, in one file, two unnamed people who appear to be investigators correspond via email about a photo one of them claims to have obtained from the cell phone of former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, who I should note has not been accused of wrongdoing in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. But the email reads, quote, I've been looking through Steve Bannon's phone. Quote, I found an image of Trump and Ghislaine Maxwell on Bannon's phone. You can see screenshot attached. Then there's a large redaction covering whatever the sender attached to the bottom of the message. Now, why is it redacted? We don't know. In another file released today, someone at the Department of Justice alerted a colleague in 2020 that, quote, Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported. Now, of course, we've known for years now that Trump's name appears multiple times on the flight logs for Epstein's private jet, despite Trump's assertions as recently as last year that, quote, I was never on Epstein's plane. Well, we know that's not true now. We've known it. But this 2020 email from a DOJ official sheds new light on who accompanied Trump and Epstein on some of those flights, including one flight in 1993 where the only passengers listed were Epstein, Trump, and a then 20-year-old whose name is redacted. Now, the DOJ official goes on to note that on the two other flights with Trump, two of the passengers, respectfully, were women who would be possible witnesses in a Maxwell case. That's what we know at this point. We also learned from these documents today that in 2021, the Justice Department subpoenaed Trump's Mar-a-Lago club for employment records. We don't know whose employment records they were seeking, but we do know that Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre had previously been employed at Mar-a-Lago. There are also new revelations about other public figures as well. I mean, one file released today shows an email addressed to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2001, which appears to come from the person formerly known as Prince Andrew. In it, the man who identifies himself vaguely as A, vaguely asks if Maxwell has found him some, quote, new inappropriate friends. We've reached out to the royal family for clarification on that and have yet to hear back. Now, the documents released today also include images of what appears to be a fake Austrian passport with Jeffrey Epstein's photo under a different name. Another email chain from the day of Epstein's death suggests that U.S. Attorney's Office was left in the dark for hours after Epstein was found dead in his prison cell. As someone from that office complained, quote, it has now been hours since this was reported publicly. It is extraordinarily frustrating to have to tell Epstein's attorneys that we have less information than the press. There's also an email in which Alex Acosta, the former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Florida, appears to be explaining why his office never consulted Epstein's victims before granting Epstein a sweetheart deal. His office was later found to have broken the law by not doing exactly that, by the way. So we're learning different new things about the Epstein case in these documents. We're getting some new insight into Epstein's criminal behavior, new details about how prosecutors bungled the case against him. But answers to the big questions concerning who knew about Epstein's crimes and who may have participated in them are still shrouded in a lot of black ink. The DOJ is still required by law to release that information, and the members of Congress who wrote that law are holding them to account. This week, Congressman Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie threatened Attorney General Pam Bondi with inherent contempt charges if the full Epstein files are not released. And Congressman Ro Khanna joins me here now. He's the lead co-sponsor of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which required the Justice Department to release all of the Epstein files by last week. Again, just to restate for everyone, thank you for being here with me. I just kind of highlighted some of the big pieces that stuck out to me and what the incredible team has started to comb through here. It really raises a whole lot more questions than are answered. But what did I miss there in my run through?
You got the central fact, which is a document came out saying there are 10 co-conspirators of Epstein that weren't charged. And the reality is, talking to survivors lawyers, they're a whole group of rich and powerful men, many of them on Wall Street and finance, some politicians who have been named, who were at the Epstein Island or abused these girls or covered it up, and none of those names have come out. Now, there's a simple way we know for those to come out. They're the 302 FBI witness interviews with these survivors. How do I know those names are in there? Because the survivors have told me that they told the FBI about these names. The survivors' lawyers were in those FBI interview memorandum. None of them have come out. They're all required to come out by law. And you see now the Justice Department backpedaling and really scrambling. They did not anticipate that MAGA would be so upset with the impartial release.
The 10 co-conspirators really stuck out to me. We saw Leader Schumer also call that out. Oh, let's give you a moment there. We'll give him a moment to come back to get his headpiece.
All right, there you go.
It's all right.
Thank you.
It's a Christmas Eve.
Yes.
All sorts of things happen. We'll give you a moment. I just was saying that it really stuck out to me, the 10 co-conspirators. It also stuck out to Leader Schumer, clearly stuck out to you. We don't know who the majority of these people are. Let me just start by asking you this. In the law that you wrote, is there anything that would require the redaction of these individuals from what was released?
No, quite the contrary. When Massie and I wrote the law, it's a 2-page law, we actually said that you cannot consider reputational harm. You cannot consider embarrassment. You cannot consider the fact that someone was not charged. And what we see is that the Department of Justice, frankly, and this is not exaggeration, is more concerned about hurting the reputation of the rich and powerful men who abused the survivors than they are protecting the survivors. When it came to the survivors, they've released the names. In one case, a survivor's name was released in a horrible way, and she then asked why the FBI file which she was mentioned in was not released. They didn't release the file she's mentioned in, though she's requesting it, and they released her name. So they're breaking the law very clearly.
And I want to come to that because that is so outrageous. And part of what the law says is that they should be protected. But let's just go back to these 10 co-conspirators. We don't know who they are. It sounds like from what you're saying, you think that they are potential individuals who women were trafficked to. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but who do you suspect they were? Do you know who they are?
Look, I've heard second or third hand names, but obviously it would be irresponsible to just be speculating. What I can tell you is they're in those 302 FBI files. And this is not that complicated. Everyone is saying redactions and this document and that document. Just release the FBI files where the survivors were interviewed. And the names are there. Some of the names are famous names. A lot of them are financial people in powerful positions. And what did they do? They showed up on what I believe was Epstein's rape island. They showed up. Now, not all of them abused underage girls, but some of them were at parties where you had 13 and 14-year-olds paraded naked. In my judgment, that is horrendous, horrific, that you showed up at a party, you watched 13-year-olds being paraded naked, and you didn't say anything. Some of them had girls trafficked to them, and some of them actually did abuse underage girls. But if you don't take Massie's word for it, if you don't take my word for it, if you don't take the survivors' lawyers' word for it, and if you don't take the survivors' word for it, there's one way to settle this. release those files, and they're hiding it. And the reason, if they were honest, the reason they're hiding it is they're protecting people. And I believe some of these people are obviously affiliates of Trump, and they don't want to cause what he says it. Trump says, I don't want to hurt these people. Well, that's what's going on. But you know what? They did disgusting things, and this Epstein class needs to be held accountable.
It is disgusting, and the whole scale of this, and this is something I have learned so much from talking to survivors, from talking to you and others, it's so much bigger than just Trump. It is about a web of the rich and powerful who have, many of them have had women trafficked to them by Epstein. What can be done? There is bipartisan. You have you, Thomas Massie, others. You know where these documents are. You've called for them to be released. What can be done to get them at this point?
Well, Gen 1, we need you and others covering this. Look, this started out as something intellectual for me. It became and has become very personal. I've seen and spent so much time with these survivors. It is one of the greatest scandals in American history when this comes out. There are 1,200 victims and many men who were abused. And, you know, they preyed on working class girls. They preyed on girls who were vulnerable. But what we're going to do is hold Pam Bondi in contempt. And she's going to have a $5,000 fine every day that those documents don't get released. We're getting Republican support for that. But we also are planning to bring the survivors back to the Capitol, and some of them are willing to come to the Capitol, and they're going to continue to put the pressure. The interesting thing is there's so many Republicans, MAGA influencers who are just appalled by Pam Bondi and who want these documents out. I think they thought this would go away because we're coming to Christmas and the holidays. Massie and I are not going to let it go away, but the country is not going to abandon these survivors.
We certainly won't either. We're going to be talking to Annie Farmer shortly as well. Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you so much for joining us. Up next, one of the revelations in the newly released Epstein files is leading to some very hard, long overdue questions about why he wasn't stopped a long time ago. Annie Farmer, as I just mentioned, who is a survivor of Epstein's abuse, and so is her older sister, who tried to get the attention of the authorities 29 years ago. She joins me next.
It looks like an ordinary staircase, but as you age with occasional nerve discomfort that can feel like stabbing or pins and needles in your hands and feet, sometimes stairs can bring worry. As a retired physician, I've seen it in my patients, but I didn't truly understand it until I got older myself. So now, I take Nervive.
Nervive reduces occasional nerve discomfort. It combines neurotropic B vitamins with a clinically studied amount of ALA, which reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days in your hands and feet. Nervive comes from the makers of the world's #1 nerve care brand.
With Nervive, I'm sleeping great, and my days start with less occasional burning in my hands and feet. I'm moving through my house with confidence, and I'm getting around town. Getting older happens. But living with occasional nerve discomfort doesn't have to. Try Nervive like I did and get your freedom back.
Find Nervive at these retailers near you. Feel confident with Nervive.
Hey everybody, W. Kamau Bell here. They say that America is the land of the free. But right now, people in the U.S. are seeing their freedoms taken away at an alarming rate. Freedoms some of us take for granted. The right to vote, equal access to health care, book banning and other forms of censorship that threaten our right to learn. And here's something truly shocking. Right now in our country, hundreds of thousands of people are incarcerated simply because they couldn't afford bail. That's not free, and it's not fair. But there is hope for change. It lives in people like you, and in a great organization called the American Civil Liberties Union. So please join me and other concerned Americans in defending our civil liberties by joining the ACLU as a guardian of liberty today. All it takes is just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day.
When you're surrounded by oppressive laws, you can't just sit back and be oppressed. You get up and fight. And all of us at the ACLU are fighting for you.
Whether it's criminal justice reform or protecting LGBTQ+ rights, abortion rights, or voting rights, the ACLU is in the courts, fighting for your rights and mine. And I, for one, sleep better at night knowing they're working every day in all 50 states to protect our freedoms. But these freedoms are at risk. We have to fight for them tirelessly, and with your help, we will continue to do so. So please go to myaclu.org and join the fight for just $19 a month. Use your credit card and get this special We the People t-shirt, ACLU magazine, and more to show you're helping ensure justice for all.
As an individual, donating to the ACLU is one of the most powerful things you can do to fight for justice.
But the ACLU can't do it alone. They need your support now to continue defending our democracy and the freedoms we hold dear. So please join us. Call or go online to myaclu.org today. Thank you.
Until I tried Ninja Transfers, the idea of making a custom t-shirt sounded crazy. But now I've made tees, hoodies, totes, even spandex leggings. I just use my iron and I DIY like a pro. Place it, press it, peel it. That's it. Ninja Transfers makes it so easy. Visit ninjatransfers.com today. Use code TV20 to save 20% right now.
My UTIs were a recurring nightmare.
For the both of us.
Then we found support with Eucora.
Eucora has UTI relief products and science-backed supplements that offer a proactive approach to urinary health.
I finally feel free.
Try today at eucora.com.
La 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 la. La 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 la.
Sur La Table has it all. Even if your idea of la yum 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 is la open the box. Sur La Table, for those who la la love to cook in the kitchen.
On September 3rd, 1996, Maria Farmer filed a complaint with the FBI about Jeffrey Epstein, warning of his involvement in child pornography. More than 29 years ago, she alleged that Epstein was stealing photographs that Maria, an artist, had taken of her sisters and was selling them off. And one of those sisters was just 16 years old. The other one was just 12 years old. And in the decades that followed, Maria went public, speaking out about abuse by Epstein and by Ghislaine Maxwell. Earlier this year, I spoke with her about this years-long effort.
When I called, I told them I was reporting kind of an international pedophile, and I called it child pornography ring. And those photographs are a permanent way that my sisters are being abused and that I'm being abused. It's been very an arduous journey over 29 years of just trying to get people to hear me.
For all those years, can you imagine this? The complaint she filed had never been made public until Friday, when the DOJ released the first batch of its Epstein files. Now we can see it in full. It took nearly 30 years, but Maria Farmer has her proof. She warned the FBI, and they did not stop Epstein from committing further crimes for many more years. Now, today, Maria Farmer released a statement saying this revelation brings some validation, but not just justice or accountability. It must lead to real answers about who knew what and when, and why our government's justice system failed so badly. Congressman Robert Garcia has now asked for that accountability, writing to the Justice Department's Inspector General to ask them to investigate why Farmer's complaint went nowhere and was hidden for so long. Incidentally, that kind of investigation is something Maria and her family's attorney, Jennifer Freeman, have been pushing for since 2023, when they wrote to then FBI Director Christopher Wray asking the agency to look into it. Maria's sister Annie is also mentioned in the original complaint from 1996. She is a survivor of abuse by Epstein and Maxwell, and one of the two sisters in the photographs Epstein allegedly took and sold. And Annie Farmer joins us now alongside her attorney I just mentioned, Jennifer Freeman. Thank you both for being here. Annie, let me start with you. I do want to talk about what we learned today, or what we didn't learn today, I guess. But amidst all of these questions about what we don't know, how are you feeling knowing that the world can see the proof that Maria did go to the FBI, as you have known all those years ago?
It was very emotional for this to finally come out. I think for all of us, I know a tremendous relief for her to not feel like she has to continue to prove this to people. And I just feel so proud of her, and so proud that people can now recognize she blew the whistle on this back in 1996. And it's just been devastating that no one did anything.
No question. I think of all of the justice, and there's so much more that needs to happen. I hope this is a moment of justice that she and your whole family feels. Jennifer, I just mentioned this. I mean, Congressman Robert Garcia called for the Inspector General to investigate why Maria's complaint was ignored for so long. Unquestionably a good step. But as I just mentioned, you wrote letters to not only the Attorney General, but also the DOJ IG, the FBI Director, back in 2023. Tell us what happened then, and what's happened, if anything, since then.
Well, we did make numerous efforts to get at the truth, just like Maria and Annie and so many other survivors have wanted for so long. We did make a formal request to the Inspector General, as well as the FBI Director and the Attorney General, and the answer was silence. We really didn't get an answer. We got nothing, and that is really unacceptable. That's really not the way this should work. And it's interesting because it was a similar letter, similar request as Representative Garcia. So we're so delighted that he is now taking that step.
Yeah, I know you've been waiting a long time. It's a good step forward, and hopefully the focus on it now will propel something to actually happen. I think we all can root for that. Annie, one of the things I've learned from talking with survivors like yourself and over the last couple of months is that this story is so much, it's larger than Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and certainly larger than what Donald Trump did or didn't know. It's important to know that, but there's so many aspects of this. What did you make today of the redaction of most of the 10 individuals who were reportedly being looked into, according to these documents, as co-conspirators?
It was very troubling to see that despite the law requiring that those types of things not be redacted, they had been. And especially in light of learning that victims' names were not being redacted properly. And so I think that contrast there is exactly why so many of us have lost faith in the DOJ and why I believe something like what Robert Garcia is calling for is so important. We're tired of being the ones that are continually outraged and trying to highlight these things. We need a neutral investigative body to look into this and show what is wrong so that others can join us in recognizing the institutional failures here.
Unquestionably, and I think a lot of people have learned from the tirelessness of you and your sister and so many survivors out there, but it should not all be on your shoulders, and that's such an important note. Jennifer, now, I mean, there's a law, we've been talking about this, that you can point to, everyone can point to a deadline that the government has missed, more evidence in the public eye, more questions probably raised than information out there with each of these tranches. What might be next? We've seen what Robert Garcia has called for. We've seen what Leader Schumer, we've seen a number of things being called for by members of Congress, but what might be next, the next kind of legal actions you could take going forward?
Well, certainly the investigation would be a terrific step. And we also have a lawsuit that is ongoing on behalf of Maria Farmer, and other survivors will join that lawsuit in the future. But this is a lawsuit seeking transparency, accountability, and justice, which is what we've been seeking from the very beginning. And that lawsuit is ongoing, and we will continue to do that.
Annie, this is just yet another news cycle where there's another round of media appearances. You're putting yourself out there. There's more pictures of the man and the woman who abused you. And I know you and other survivors are experiencing this kind of over and over and over again, this like drip, drip, dip of some details, not all the details, not all the details you want. What is that like? And kind of what is the information that you all would really like to see out there? I know it's all the files, but help explain to people why it's important for it all to be out there and what every survivor is really looking forward to give them some justice.
Yeah, a couple great questions. I think first, just to have it, I mean, we've been in communication so much with each other, and I think everyone is saying, wow, I feel really exhausted. I feel, stressed out. I'm struggling with sleep. I have a stomach ache, right? Like there's all these physical ways that this is manifesting for us. And it just makes me think about, the physical effects of living under threat. And it makes me think about, honestly, Maria, why I'm here speaking for her and she's not able to be here at this point is because she's dealt with so many chronic health issues over the years. And I really believe, and her doctors believe, the stress and threat that she's lived under has really contributed to that. So I just want to highlight that because I think that's something people don't always recognize or understand. And so as this information continues to drip out, I think there's a lot of that going on, but we have pushed for it and we've demanded it despite that, because we believe that things like individuals' own FBI reports, we're not seeing a lot of those yet, those statements that they provided that included names, that included details. And it's just wild to me that we'd be getting some of these other things without those kind of documents, because I think those are going to be some really important pieces of the puzzle.
Unquestionably, I think it's important for people to hear that what you're looking for is information about your own stories. Jennifer, let me end with you. I mean, you've been fighting the legal fight on this for so long. What do you want to see in these documents? What are you looking for every time there's a set of documents that's released? Annie mentioned a really important part of it. What about you?
I think we're similar in some ways in that we also want those FBI witness reports. We want to see the actual nitty-gritty of what happened, because that's really where the truth is. That's very, very important. And we need to see, what did the government do in 1996 in response to Maria Farmer's report? That is so critical. We have now one piece of paper, which is a very important piece of paper, and that helps our case a lot. It helps everyone to understand that this is something that went on. But we really need to understand, what did they do and when did they do it and what did they know?
Annie Farmer, Jennifer Freeman, thank you both so much. You're tireless. I hope you have a break and a breath with your family. Thank you so much for everything you've done to bring light to this really difficult, challenging battle you've been going through for decades over the last several months. Thank you again. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, turmoil at CBS News over its editor-in-chief spiking a news story about migrants deported to an El Salvador prison. It's raising new questions about the challenges of covering the actions of this Trump administration and the role of the free press. Veteran journalist Terry Moran.
They go through committee and subcommittee where they're perfected. People argue through logistical problems. This bill never got that. It never got that treatment. It was a political bill that the Democrats wrote to achieve a political objective. And had this been done the right way, and the agency, the Department of Justice in this case, been given ample time to go through a million documents and with the instructions and the strictures in the law, this would have been a lot less chaotic. And this is what happens when you pass laws as press releases, which is what House Democrats did here.
Well, just to be clear, though, it was nearly unanimous with Republicans having the majority in Congress.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Karen.
Well, and the only reason it got to a discharge petition was because the Trump administration, Trump himself, were failing to do what they campaigned on, and that was to make the files available, to make the information available, something that these survivors have been trying to make happen for years. And so let's if we're going to talk about it, Brad, let's tell the facts. Let's be honest that the reason we got a discharge petition was, again, so that to hold people accountable for doing what they said they were going to do. As you recall, the survivors themselves very powerfully appeared on Capitol Hill and told their stories. I mean, they walked the halls of Congress to meet with members, to ask them, to beg them to release the files. And some said to their faces that they would, and then changed their minds. So this was a way to hold people accountable to that. And as you mentioned, Pam, when it came to the floor, it was a almost near unanimous vote, as it should be, by the way.
Yeah, one Republican did not vote.
Well, while we're holding people accountable, Karen, let's talk about Merrick Garland. The Democrats' Attorney General had these files for 4 years and did nothing with them and didn't even prep them for a day like today when they might have to be made public. So House Democrats only got excited about this, and the Democratic Party in general, when they thought it would hurt President Trump.
Well, actually, that's not true, because during the Biden administration, remember, the Ghislaine Maxwell case was ongoing. She was actually convicted and sent to prison, and now the files are able to be released.
She was sentenced to prison
at
21, 3 years ago.
She then appealed that,
4 years
but then she was still appealing it when Democrats then called for the release of these documents under President Trump. There's a lot here. Karen Finney, Brad Todd, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Up next, one lawmaker is suing to take Trump's name off the Kennedy Center just days after it was plastered on the building. She's my source. Next.
Newsnight with Abby Phillip, tonight at 10 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
The NBA is happening Christmas Day. 5 games, one unforgettable lineup. That's what Christmas is all about. Buckets for breakfast, breakaways for dessert. It's the holiday tradition. Christmas all day. With star power from across the globe.
The stars, they are going to be out.
The best gift, you don't even have to unwrap it. And we want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year! NBA Christmas Day begins at noon on ABC and ESPN.
Mornings. Cough? Congestion?
All in one and done. With Mucinex Kickstart.
Headache? Better.
Mucinex gives a morning jolt of instant cooling sensation. Also, try new Kickstart Severe Congestion and Cough.
Tell a joke.
I think I'm getting a divorce.
I guess we just slowly grew away from each other.
I've been doing stand-up. Is it like a hobby? Well, I'm not about to quit my job and go on tour. It's something I look forward to.
We stopped having each other's backs.
I was unhappy in our marriage. I wasn't unhappy with our marriage.
Man, I wish I had a punchline.
Is this thing on? Rated R.
You can't go out there. You'll never make it.
But I reckon I got to. I'm 45. It's time to screen for colon cancer.
Will I ever see you again?
I love you. Also, I'm just going to the porch.
I knew that.
It's true. The Cologuard test comes to you.
Just ask your provider or request online.
That way you can screen for colon cancer on your terms. It's effective and non-invasive.
False positive and negative results may occur. It is not for those at high risk. Skip the drama. Ask your provider or request Cologuard online.
And Doug.
There it is, Limu, the 50-yard line. Soon we'll be telling the whole stadium how Liberty Mutual customizes car insurance. To save people hundreds! Whoa! Ah! Looks like we're walking.
Get them at halftime. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
This cough.
Mucus levels are high today, huh?
Not today. I got Mucinex 12 hour.
Mucinex 12-hour works continuously to break up mucus and move it up and out. Rid the congestion, kill the cough.
Seeking. The unsatisfied. Emotional. Defiant. Those who take things personally. Seeking. Exceptional people to do exceptional things. Seeking. Those who won't rest until there's enough of the medicine they make for everyone who needs it.
Everything I rely on just vanished in an instant. Food spoiling, phone dying, medical devices useless.
Now that's a real quote from a recent power outage. The new Patriot Power Generator 2200X changes everything. 39% more power to run essentials for days. Safe indoors, silent, expandable, just $299 down, ships fast and free. Plus, you'll get this 200-watt solar panel absolutely free. This deal ends 12/31. Go to FordPatriots.com now.
Morning, Mom. Just getting ready and wanted to say hi. I'm finally not bloated all the time. Those jeans you bought me fit so well now. It's Seeds DS-01, that probiotic I told you about. Taking it has changed my gut health, and honestly, DS-01 keeps things moving. I know you've been trying to find a probiotic that actually works, so I think you need to try DS-01. I'm sending you the link now.
Experience the power of a healthy gut. Visit Seed.com to start DS-01 today.
Tonight, a Democratic lawmaker is suing to remove President Trump's name from the Kennedy Center right here in Washington. It was added in big letters to the center's exterior last week after a vote from the Board of Trustees. Ohio Congresswoman Joyce Beatty is an ex officio trustee, and she says that vote went beyond the board's authority as given by Congress. And she's my source tonight, along with her attorney, Norm Eisen, who is bringing this case as the founder of Democracy Defenders Action. Great to see you both. All right, Congresswoman, so you say in this lawsuit that the vote and the addition of Trump's name to the outside of the building were, quote, scenes more reminiscent of authoritarian regimes than the American Republic. You may feel that way, but how did this break the law?
Well, it breaks the law because it was by statute put into the congressional statute that only the Congress would be able to do a name change. In the buildings shortly after John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, in 1964, it was named after him. It is the only living memorial dedicated to him. And it is very clear that the board did not have the authority to do what they did. And so that makes it illegal. It's quite that simple. This administration cannot, just because they want to put Donald Trump's name on a building. So what's next? The Lincoln Memorial? I mean, it's just not legal. And it's simple. We have it in the statute. It's in the congressional statutes, clearly defining how you have to go about a name change.
Well, and we know that President Trump likes to put his name on things, right? This is just the one example of many recent examples. But the law says here that no additional memorial shall be designated. And the center spokesperson says, quote, the memorial is not impacted at all. So, Norm, does that give the board an opening to add Trump's name to the center as a whole?
Absolutely not. The statute is very clear. And Pam, all you have to do is look at that picture when they say the memorial is not impacted at all, and they've put Donald Trump's name in giant letters on the front of the memorial. This is the reason this kind of illegal contempt for the law, self-serving Donald Trump behavior at the expense of the rule of law, it's the reason that courts have struck down his actions hundreds of times. And we're confident here that this is a grossly illegal action. It's disrespectful to the memory of our slain President Kennedy, his family, but to all Americans who treasure that memory, and to the idea, the congressional purpose, that this is supposed to be a nonpartisan arts center, a crown jewel for the country. So for all those reasons, this is grossly illegal.
Congressman Trump and his allies, as you well know, argue that he was able to save and improve the Kennedy Center with needed upgrades and new programming. Do you believe he deserves any credit for any of that, name change aside?
I don't think name changing has anything to do with the things that his team, board members, and staff there say they identified. But you have to also realize he was the president before and handpicked and appointed people to the board. So why didn't they see any of those things 4 years ago? I think he got in his mind, he wanted his name on the building, and they made all of these changes. It's no different than what he did with the East Wing and the Rose Garden at the White House. Again, things that he should not have done. So I think this is why what he is using to make the public think that it's okay. And I'm not taking anything away from if there were improvements, structural things that needed to happen, but that does not constitute one to then put their name on the John F. Kennedy Center. It's just that simple. It's a disgrace and it's illegal.
And Norm, the lawsuit names several Trump allies on the board, but also others, including the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, who has the same ex officio status as Congresswoman Beatty. So why, he's not on there. Why sue him too?
Pam, the idea here is to make sure that we have complete relief. So we've named the president. He's appointed himself as the head of the Kennedy Center. His allies who are on the board, the trustees he's appointed, and also the Kennedy Center itself, so that everybody who needs to be in court is there. So the judge has the power to say, guys and gals, this is illegal. Congress has been very plain. And, you know, whenever the rule of law is assaulted, that is a serious matter for the Constitution. And all of those individuals are part of getting the relief here of taking that name off of the memorial. It could not be more simple in the law.
All right. Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Norm Eisen, thank you both. Now I want to bring in former federal prosecutor Gene Rossi to talk more about this. Okay, Gene, I'm just trying to channel people watching this right now. And they may say, why should I care about a name change on a building in Washington? What do you say to them?
Well, in November of 1963, John F. Kennedy was assassinated. He is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. That is on one end of Arlington Memorial Bridge. Congress specifically put at the other end of that bridge the Kennedy Center, which is a living memorial to John F. Kennedy. So when Donald Trump puts his name on the living memorial, he is desecrating the name of John F. Kennedy. And what really shocks me is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. voted to put Donald Trump's name on the living memorial of his uncle. Why does that shock me? I can't tell you how poorly it looks in the eyes of people who love John F. Kennedy. And it's a disgrace that Donald Trump, as Mr. Eisen just said, Donald Trump has violated the law by putting his name on this.
So you think
building.
the Board of Trustees broke the law here?
As Norm said, and he wrote a brilliant complaint, he clearly broke the law. It's not a close call. And not get into the weeds, if it gets to a jury, which I don't think it will, it could be decided on a motion for summary judgment. It's that clear, where a judge decides there's no dispute about the facts. I'm just going to apply the law to the undisputed facts, and they broke the law, and it should be taken down. So what's going to happen is, last point I want to make, any Democrat who takes the oath of office in 2029, the first executive order should be to remove his name from the Kennedy Center, from the Institute of Peace. Where's it going to end? Is he going to have the Trump RFK football stadium? Is he going to have the Trump Martin Luther King statue? The Trump Lincoln Memorial? Where's it going to stop? They talk about authoritarian regimes. I'm reminded of Benito Mussolini. I'm Italian. He did the same thing. Crazy people do crazy things, and this is a crazy thing for him to do.
Well, I remember my mom used to know him back in the day and said he told her, this was decades ago, that he wanted his name on every building in the world. So he is carrying out.
Including a hotel in Moscow. That's what he really wants.
But can I just quickly ask you about the defendants? Because you have Pam Bondi. We were just talking about Mike Johnson as well. I mean, would that complicate the case, all these people in the lawsuit?
No, Norm's right. You have to include as many people as possible, because what they're doing is they're trying to get an injunction against all the individuals involved. So if you don't list Mike Johnson, John Thune, if they're not in the lawsuit, they could try to do something outside the statute to get around what's happening in this lawsuit. So that's why you name everybody.
All right, Gene Rossi, thank you so much.
Thank you. I wore this tie for you.
Okay, I love it. Very festive.
Not bad.
All right, coming up here on The Source, the military says it hit another alleged drug boat. The top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee is my source. Up next.
Jen loved her Gain flings. Then Brad showed up with Gain rinse and beads. When they mixed their scents, they discovered they were scent mates. Smells like it's gonna last. Mix, match, more happy with Gain.
The secret is out. With millions of younger-looking customers across the country, Plexiderm is one of the most sought-after anti-aging products available today. Influencers love it, magazines feature it, and people just can't get enough of it. As a matter of fact, Elle Magazine gave it an Editor's Choice Award as Best Instant Wrinkle Filler for 2025. Plexiderm reduces the appearance of fine lines, wrinkles, and those dreaded under-eye bags in as little as 10 minutes. So yes, you can look years younger in minutes, and the effects will last for hours. No surgery, no gimmicks, just results.
Look at this one under-eye bag. It's gone.
I've tried it all, and then I found Plexiderm, and this happened.
The best news, you can try Plexiderm this holiday season for only $14.95 and free shipping. Just call the number on your screen, scan the QR code, or visit plexidermtrial.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
I need help with their snoring.
Sleep Number does that.
Thank you.
All mattresses are on sale, plus a free Essential Fit sheet set with any bed purchase. Only at Sleep Number.
Our right to reproductive health care is being stolen from us.
I can't believe this is the world we live in, where we're losing the freedom to control our own bodies.
We need your support now more than ever. Go online, call, or scan this code with your $19 monthly gift, and we'll send you this Care No Matter What t-shirt.
It is your right to have safe health care. That's it.
Go online, call, or scan right now.
You're going to do a Neil Diamond show?
The Neil Diamond Experience.
This Christmas, celebrate the joy of the season.
It's good.
With the perfect holiday movie.
So good.
Song Blue, rated PG-13. Only in theaters this Christmas.
And
Alka-Seltzer Plus Cold or Flu Fizzy Chews. Chew, fizz. Feel better fast. No water needed. Alka-Seltzer Plus Fizzy Chews.
At Wayfair, the holidays are here and...
I am not ready.
I know. Let's get you prepped with Wayfair. Push it.
Got it.
Win the season with Wayfair.
Beaks up! We're trapped by dishes!
Don't worry, they've got John Power Suds. It traps, locks, and removes 99% of grease, so it doesn't get passed from dish to dish.
Ooh, clean and stacked.
Like ducks in a row. John Power Suds.
The holidays are all about giving, but at the Ram Wrap Up the Year sales event, it's all about getting. Get 0% APR financing for 60 months. Get the strongest Ram 1500 ever. And get it all backed by a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Nothing stops Ram. Don't let anything stop you from getting a great deal at the Ram Wrap Up the Year sales event.
Right now, purchase this Ram 1500 and get 0% financing for 60 months or $5,500 total cash allowance on select 2026 Ram 1500 models in dealer inventory. And get a 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
My dad has never been in better shape. He had a stroke and passed away. But he did an incredible thing for my family. Ethos.com. In 10 minutes, you can be covered with life insurance.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
Newsnight with Abby Phillip, live next on CNN.
Well, the U.S. military is keeping up its deadly campaign against alleged drug boats. U.S. Southern Command released this new video late last night, saying it targeted a, quote, low-profile vessel in the eastern Pacific Ocean, killing one person on board. In all, the U.S. military has destroyed at least 30 boats, resulting in 105 reported deaths. The Trump administration says the campaign known as Operation Southern Spear is aimed at curtailing drug trafficking. The strikes are also part of an increased military presence near South America as Trump ramps up a pressure campaign on Venezuela. And in recent days, the U.S. has seized 2 oil
So we got an Epstein files released today from the Department of Justice, and the big question is whether or not this particular postcard is real. Let me just read a post here. It says, Epstein files contain postcard/letter from Epstein to Larry Nassar while in prison alleging, quote, our president also shares our love of young nubile girls. Okay. So this is dated August 13th, 2019. Epstein died on August 10th, 2019. So this was postmarked after his death. And there's also concerns of like where this postcard came from. Does it match Epstein's handwriting, etc.? So the question is this real or not? Okay. And it's interesting because then the Department of Justice has been tweeting up a storm, basically saying, hey, we released all this stuff, but don't believe any of it. And just let me go over what they're saying. So this is from the Department of Justice. They say, the Department of Justice has officially released nearly 30,000 more pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. Some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against President Trump that were submitted to the FBI before the 2020 election. Okay. So they're saying we're putting out a bunch of stuff. Don't believe it. To be clear, the claims are unfounded and false. And if they have a shred of credibility, they would have certainly been weaponized against President Trump already. Nevertheless, out of our commitment to the law and transparency, DOJ is releasing these documents with the legally required protections for the Epstein's victims. And this is, again, 30,000 more pages. And essentially what I think people are going to be doing is going over all this stuff, trying to figure out what is real, not real. The whole thing is strange the way this is done. And the DOJ keeps tweeting out stuff. People are fact-checking them. So it says readers added context they thought people might want to know. So here's what's been added to the note. The claim of, quote, commitment to transparency is unfounded. DOJ missed the December 19 deadline mandated by Bipartisan Epstein Files Transparency Act, released only partial and heavily redacted files, and now faces bipartisan criticism for noncompliance and excessive redactions. Okay? So they're under fire for redacting stuff. They release stuff. They tell you don't believe it. And then we have to go through the stuff and figure out if it's real or not. That's essentially what it is. And then figure out what this all means. It's the whole thing is crazy. I'll just tell you that. People then are commenting saying there is no conclusive evidence to suggest claims involving President Trump are, quote, sensationalist or untrue. Someone said, okay, so why are you redacting stuff? Another person says, why did you redact Donald Trump's name? Another person writes, still running cover for pedos, I see. Okay, great. Then we got the Department of Justice tweets out again, just a few hours after that one. And they say here, the FBI has confirmed this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar is fake. The fake letter was received by the jail and flagged for the FBI at the time. The FBI made this conclusion based on the following facts, okay? So the writing doesn't appear to match Jeffrey Epstein, they say. The letter was postmarked 3 days after Epstein's death out of Northern Virginia when he was jailed in New York. The return address did not list the jail where Epstein was held and did not include his inmate number, which is required for outgoing mail. This fake letter serves as a reminder that just because a document is released by the Department of Justice does not make the allegations or claims with the document factual. Nevertheless, the DOJ will continue to release all material required by law. And I read through a Wall Street Journal report of this thing, and they put a bunch of different stuff in there and saying that some of it may be real, some of it may not be real. We're going through it now. And then the big question I would have then, why are we releasing stuff that, if you think it's not real? I mean, the whole thing is strange. So, for example, Harry says, okay, so where is the FBI document from 2019 when it was discovered, concluding it was fake? You put out a tweet and expect us to believe it. So I think that's a reasonable thing. So if for example, internally within the FBI, if you rule that something's fake, someone should have, have an email saying that or something of that nature. Another person writes, this service level cursory investigation is not how the FBI works. Quote, oh, the signatures didn't match and the dates were off. The FBI operates with far more nuance and detail. This is slop for the public. Another person writes, Trump and DOJ are protecting pedos, the end. Okay, so then the Department of Justice tweets out again. This is a third tweet today. It's like every couple of hours. Okay, the Department of Justice is currently looking into the validity of this alleged letter from Jeffrey Epstein to Larry Nassar, and we will follow up as soon as possible. Okay, so now we're really trying to figure out this postcard thing. Is it real or not? In the meantime, 3 facts stand out. The postmark on the envelope is Virginia, not New York, where Epstein was jailed at the time. The return address listed as the wrong jail where Epstein was held and did not include his inmate number, which is required by outgoing mail. The envelope was processed 3 days after Epstein's death. Okay. But there's more, which I'm going with you right now. So this is coming from Aaron. Aaron says, new statement from Epstein survivor Ashley Rubright blasting the DOJ for releasing fake documents. Quote, I want to know why fake documents exist in the Epstein case. Someone put false information into a case involving the sexual abuse of children, and that should terrify everyone. It's reasonable. If these documents were submitted intentionally, we deserve to know why did it and who did it and why. If anyone in the government created them, altered them, or used them anyway, that is a betrayal of survivors and corruption of justice. This case is already defined by lies, silence, and the protection of powerful people. Adding fake records only deepens the harm. We're not asking for favors, we're asking for the truth. The DOJ cannot stay silent on this, tell us who is responsible, and tell us what they are trying to hide, okay? And again, this whole thing is a debate is, first release what you have, now we're debating what's real, what's not real, then we're debating who determines what's real, not real, and there should be documentation of said things, like basically the chain of possession, I guess you could call it, and the chain of making determinations on stuff. There's yet more. Sarah says, earlier this year, Kash Patel testified under oath that internal files contain no credible information Epstein trafficked young women to anyone other than himself. Today, DOJ released internal emails referring to, quote, 10 co-conspirators, right? So now we're talking about more people. It gets really complicated. That's why I'm going through this stuff, guys. I don't pretend to have all the answers on these things. There's, again, 30,000 pages. But I am looking through this stuff, and I also want to hear your guys' thoughts on this also. Seth has an update. CNN confirms that, quote, the envelope holding the Epstein-Nassar note was sent from the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City, where Epstein was being held, to Nassar and got vetted by federal officials, which explains the Virginia postmark where the FBI is. So why won't the FBI release the 2020 handwriting analysis it did if the analysis concluded that the note was forgery, right? So you want to see who who's making these determinations that maybe the handwriting doesn't match, right? Like, where's that? How did the FBI preclude the possibility, even likelihood, of a dictation in 120 minutes? Where's the real Epstein-Nassar note we know Epstein sent? On a separate but related note, I'm astonished at how many folks I thought smart brought the Trump FBI DOJ explanation instantly, despite none of it making sense. You realize these are just Trump personal lawyers with no ethics or fear of repercussion, right? Why kowtow to them? So, and this is part of what's interesting, how people are all going and through this stuff. There's a lot of discoveries here of when they tried to redact some things, but then some of the documents
falling off the wall.
Maybe it's difficult to step over and feels unsafe.
I could not lift my legs over the tub without tripping.
Your reasons for needing a bath remodel are personal, and so is your remodel experience from the very first call with Jacuzzi.
It was a wonderful experience. I got to choose my different fixtures and shower heads. Everything was customized the way I wanted it.
Jacuzzi bath remodel exceeded our expectations, well beyond what we expected.
It's time to personalize your bath remodel with Jacuzzi.
Call or go online right now to schedule your free at-home design consultation for a new Jacuzzi bath remodel.
I am completely mind blown how affordable my Jacuzzi bath remodel was.
Jacuzzi Bath Remodel is now offering 0 down, 0 payments with no interest for up to a year. Plus, we are waiving all installation costs.
Call 800-378-9544. Call now.
We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike.
Morning Joe, weekdays 6 to 10 on MS Now.
That does it for me tonight. The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell starts right now. Hey, Lawrence.
Hey, Jen. Merry Christmas. Get out of here. Go home. Enjoy the holiday. Thank you very much for teaming up with us throughout the year.
Merry Christmas to you, too, and I will see you in the new year.
Thanks, Jen.
All right.
Thank you. Well, tonight, with the world now wondering about the 10 co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein referred to in some of the Epstein files released today, it is worth considering. What would an innocent person do? What would someone who is mentioned in the Epstein files do if he or she believed that he or she is totally innocent of any wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein? Former President Bill Clinton's office put out a statement saying, quote, "We call on President Trump to direct Attorney General Bondi to immediately release any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton." And there it is. That is the model for how you handle this situation if you are in the Epstein files and you believe you did nothing wrong. Please feel free to now consider all of the prominent names you have heard this year associated with the Jeffrey Epstein, who have not demanded the immediate release of any materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of that person. Donald Trump has never demanded that. Donald Trump has done everything he could to prevent that from happening. Jeffrey Epstein's biggest business partner, Les Wexner, has never said, "Release everything about me that's in the Epstein files." And he is not saying it now, after his name emerged today in a 2019 Justice Department email titled "Co-Conspirators." The email described attempts to subpoena the list of co-conspirators, which included Ghislaine Maxwell. A legal representative for Mr. Wexner told the New York Times that he was not a target of the federal investigation or considered a co-conspirator. He provided federal prosecutors with background information on Mr. Epstein and was never contacted again, the representative said. So I guess that settles that. If a lawyer for Mr. Wexner of Ohio says he did nothing wrong. That must settle it. I would love to have that lawyer for Mr. Wexner of Ohio join us here on this program and tell us whether he responded to a grand jury subpoena and whether he testified to the grand jury. I'd love to have Mr. Wexner of Ohio come here and tell us all about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which no one has ever been able to understand or explain. Mr. Wexner is so much richer than Jeffrey Epstein could ever have dreamed of being, and no one's ever figured out why Les Wexner would be in business with Jeffrey Epstein in any way. So what was that all about? And we patiently await Mr. Wexner's lawyer issuing a statement saying that they demand immediately the release of all information in the Epstein files about him and any photograph of him in the Epstein files. We patiently await that moment. There is no indication that Donald Trump was on the list of co-conspirators, but here's what Donald Trump said about Jeffrey Epstein's most important co-conspirator after she was convicted of sex trafficking with Jeffrey Epstein.
I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is.
Yes, he did see her numerous times over the years. New information from the Epstein files today revealed that Donald Trump flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane in the 1990s more often than he has ever admitted. In fact, Donald Trump has told the lie that he never flew on that plane. At least 4 of the Trump flights on the Epstein plane included Ghislaine Maxwell among the passengers Donald Trump was flying with. Donald Trump wishes Ghislaine Maxwell well. Donald Trump did not issue a statement today demanding the immediate release of any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Donald Trump. Another email about co-conspirators released today said, quote, of the 10 co-conspirators, 3 have been located in Florida and served grand jury subpoenas. 1 in Boston, 1 in New York City, and 1 in Connecticut were located and served. 4 of the 10 are outstanding with attempts having been made. 1 is a wealthy businessman in Ohio. The remaining 3 are currently out of pocket. The team is flying out tonight, tomorrow to various locations in Florida to interview approximately 25 victims. If you were a wealthy businessman in Ohio who knew Jeffrey Epstein and you think you did nothing wrong, wouldn't you release a statement today, just like Bill Clinton's, demanding the release of any materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of yourself? Les Wexner is a wealthy businessman in Ohio and has not released any statement like that. If you're one of the prominent people living in the Boston area who has been publicly associated with Jeffrey Epstein, wouldn't you release a statement today demanding the release of any materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of you if you thought you did nothing wrong? Bill Clinton is the only person mentioned in the Epstein files who issued a statement demanding the full release of any remaining materials referring to, mentioning, or containing a photograph of Bill Clinton. And so, investigative reporting will continue about the possible 10 co-conspirators. More released documents by the Trump Justice Department might eventually identify those co-conspirators. But if you are a co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein's, your life changed today. And now it is only a matter of time. If you are a co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein's, you should know tonight that the clock is ticking on your secret. If you are a co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein's, you should know tonight that you have a rendezvous with the truth coming your way. Thanks entirely to a law passed by Congress to release the Epstein files, a law that could only be passed, not because any billionaire wanted it, but could only be passed because the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, who are now the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, brought the moral clarity to Washington that demanded the release of those files over Donald Trump's objection. Those files have been released and will continue to be released over the objection of Donald Trump's Attorney General, Donald Trump's FBI Director, Donald Trump's Deputy Attorney General, who is Donald Trump's personal criminal defense lawyer. They all told the world in April that there was no reason to release a single document from the Epstein files and that the case was absolutely closed. They told the world there were no co-conspirators. They told the world there was no possibility of ever investigating or prosecuting anyone else for any kind of involvement in the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Donald Trump and his Attorney General and his Deputy Attorney General and his FBI Director have spent the year turning the Trump Justice Department into the Trump Criminal Defense Law Firm. The Trump Justice Department no longer represents the interests of the United States. The Trump Justice Department represents and defends Donald Trump, and that is why they fought the release of the Epstein files. We don't yet know how much of the redacting of the Epstein files involves redacting the word Trump. But we do know that the completely corrupted Trump Justice Department is capable of continuing to try to cover up whatever they believe they need to cover up for Donald Trump in the Epstein files. The Trump Justice Department is and will remain completely corrupted. They therefore have no credibility at all in anything that they say about the Epstein files. And so when Todd Blanche tells you that something is fake in the Epstein